Leviticus 13. Remember back in the day when we had a very short chapter about pregnancy? Well, this is a very long chapter about leprosy, and it begins with God explaining what leprosy is and how to treat it. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When anyone has a swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on their skin that may be a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons who is a priest. The priest is to examine the sore on the skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling skin disease. When the priest examines that person, he shall pronounce them ceremonially unclean. If the shiny spot on the skin is white, but does not appear to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees that the sore is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, he is to isolate them for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them again, and if the sore has faded and has not spread in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes and they will be clean. But if the rash does spread in their skin after they have shown themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine that person, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. Just get vaccinated, people. It's not that complicated. In case it's not clear, every time the Bible says defiling skin disease, it's leprosy. What's amazing to me is how God went from telling priests how to perform ceremonial rituals to teaching them how to be doctors. Aaron and his boys have to diagnose leprosy. That is way above their pay grade. And notice that if they decide someone has leprosy, the response is to declare the patient ceremonially unclean. There's no medicine. There's only a quarantine sometimes. But mostly, there's a religious declaration, which also suggests the disease originated due to sin, not bacteria, because why else would you need a priest to fix you? Listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm just brown, but if there's a rash spreading all over your body, a priest saying you're unclean is not gonna make you any better. You know what's really weird about this section? Leprosy does not cause your hair to turn white. That's a totally different problem. But it's just lumped together because these are not scientifically literate people making this stuff up. When anyone has a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned the hair white, and if there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce them unclean. He is not to isolate them, because they are already unclean. Oh no. If there's raw flesh in the swelling, which means there's a chronic skin disease, no need to quarantine them because the priests already said the magic words. No wonder COVID 400 BC was so devastating. If the disease breaks out all over their skin, and, so far as the priest can see, it covers all the skin of the affected person from head to foot, the priest is to examine them, and if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has turned all white, they are clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. They have a defiling disease. If the raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if the sores have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean. Then they will be clean. There is no better sign that you should not look to the Bible for medical advice than the line, "If the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean." I know the scientific revolution was a long way away, but even back then, I am pretty sure that the second part of that statement did not logically follow from the first. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals, and in the place where the boil was, a white swelling or reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. The priest is to examine it, and if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has turned white, the priest shall pronounce that person unclean. It is a defiling skin disease that has broken out where the boil was. But if, when the priest examines it, there is no white hair in it, and it is not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. If it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling disease. But if the spot is unchanged and has not spread, it is only a scar from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. Listen, I can make this much easier. If you have a defiling skin disease, or a boil, or a rash, go see someone who knows what they're talking about and stay inside. Don't worry about going to church. When someone has a burn on their skin and a reddish white or white spot appears in the raw flesh of the burn, the priest is to examine the spot. And if the hair in it has turned white and it appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. But if the priest examines it and there is no white hair in the spot, and if it is not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine that person, and if it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin but has faded, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a scar from the burn. I swear, we've already covered all this. But if it's different, it's very confusing. When God was going through the genealogy sections, I know I said God could save everyone a lot of time and hassle by just giving us a family tree. Well, right now, what we need is a flowchart. See this problem, then do this. Because God's recipe book here is very hard to follow. Thankfully though, if you search Google for Leviticus 13 and flowchart, you will find some. They are so much more helpful. I'll even leave a link for you in the description below. Anyway, we're still not done. If a man or woman has a sore on their head or chin, the priest is to examine the sore. And if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it is yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease on the head or chin. But if, when the priest examines the sore, it does not seem to be more than skin deep, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread, and there is no yellow hair in it, and it does not appear to be more than skin deep, then the man or woman must shave themselves, except for the affected area, and the priest is to keep them isolated another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread in the skin, and appears to be no more than skin deep, the priest shall pronounce them clean. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the sore does spread in the skin after they are pronounced clean, the priest is to examine them. And if he finds that the sore has spread in the skin, he does not need to look for yellow hair. They are unclean. If, however, the sore is unchanged so far as the priest can see, and if black hair has grown in it, the affected person is healed. They are clean, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. I want to remind you that the first words in this chapter were, "The Lord said to Moses and Aaron," which means 2 guys are responsible for passing along all this knowledge. And they're old. There's no way their memories are good. Which means a bunch of people with diseases are totally gonna die. Did you catch that this section referenced yellow hair, by the way? When did blonde people suddenly appear in the Bible? We've seen red-headed people like Esau and David, Black hair seems like a default, but all of a sudden we just find this new trait everywhere. When a man or woman has white spots on the skin, the priest is to examine them, and if the spots are dull white, it is a harmless rash that is broken out on the skin. They are clean. Harmless rash. That's like your doctor saying you have a benign tumor. I'm pretty sure the second word outweighs the first. A man who has lost his hair and is bald is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. But if he has a reddish-white sore on his bald head or forehead, it is a defiling disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swollen sore on his head or forehead is reddish-white, like a defiling skin disease, the man is diseased and is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of the sore on his head. Bald men for the win! Unless you have a mark on your scalp, in which case you have a head disease, which I didn't know was a thing until now. Anyone with such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes, let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face, and cry out, "Unclean! Unclean!" As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. Oh my God. Anyone with such a defiling disease must cover the lower part of their face. The Bible is telling us to wear face masks in a pandemic. Can someone please show this video to conservative Christians? Do they know this is in the Bible? Even these scientifically illiterate Bible people did more to advocate the wearing of face masks than the majority of today's Republican Party. Anyway, the Bible is right. People with diseases should definitely be covering themselves up and not wearing torn clothes and not going out into the world unhygienically and just constantly yelling, "Unclean! Unclean!" I don't even think you need to tell them to live alone. That's gonna happen automatically. It'll take care of itself. I cannot stop laughing at the idea that anyone with leprosy must walk around shouting to the world about how they have leprosy. As if the rashes all over their body aren't already doing the trick. And did you catch that bit at the end? If you have leprosy, you must live alone and outside the camp. That's basically saying you're a leper and you have to live in a leper colony. Anyway, I think we're done with diseases, so now we can move on to mold. Because the Bible thinks your clothing can catch a bacterial disease and spread. As for any fabric that is spoiled with a defiling mold, any woolen or linen clothing, any woven or knitted material of linen or wool, any leather or anything made of leather, if the affected area in the fabric, the leather, the woven or knitted material, or any leather article is greenish or reddish, it is a defiling mold and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the affected area and isolate the article for 7 days. On the 7th day, he is to examine it, and if the mold has spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather, whatever its use, it is a persistent defiling mold. The article is unclean. He must burn the fabric, the woven or knitted material of wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled. Because the defiling mold is persistent, the article must be burned. I agree that moldy clothing should be burned up. I mean, I'm kind of amused by the idea that a priest could see mold on clothing, quarantine the shirt for a week, and then think it'll magically heal itself after day 7. But if, when the priest examines it, the mold has not spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather article, he shall order that the spoiled article be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it again, and if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it, no matter which side of the fabric has been spoiled. If, when the priest examines it, the mold has faded after the article has been washed, he is to tear the spoiled part out of the fabric, the leather, or the woven or knitted material. But if it reappears in the fabric, in the woven or knitted material, or in the leather article, it is a spreading mold. Whatever has the mold must be burned. Any fabric, woven or knitted material, or any leather article that has been washed and is rid of the mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. Check this out. If you've worn clothing for a while and there's any chance it might be moldy, even if you can't see the mold anymore, or, even if it's not and never was moldy, washing it is a good idea. You're welcome. Please subscribe to this channel for more beauty tips. These are the regulations concerning defiling molds in woolen or linen clothing, woven or knitted material, or any leather article, for pronouncing them clean or unclean. I love that the do your laundry section of the Bible was an afterthought in the section about skin disease. I feel like we could have just solved everything in this section by having some biblical doctors instead of priests. Or, here's a thought, God. If people have leprosy, why don't you heal them? God can do anything, but if you have a rash all over your skin, God has a 100-point checklist that may involve you having to self-isolate and burn your clothes because even God doesn't know what to do. God helped Moses part the Red Sea, but when it comes to medical problems, God's got nothing useful for anybody.